Hello. Okay, Star Wars. I don't think I have to say it at this point, but I am an unabashed original trilogy Star Wars fanboy. If it hasn't been obvious by now, I grew up with the original trilogy. I guess one of the few times I could use my age as a positive. I was born in July of '73, and as any Star Wars fan knows, the original Star Wars. Back then, we just called it Star Wars, but or New Hope, Episode 4, whatever you want to call it, was in May of '77. So I was 3, almost 4 when it came out. I got to see them all in the theaters during their original releases. Although, to be honest, I don't remember seeing the original Star Wars in the theater. I do remember the second time I saw it, where my grandmother lived out of state. We went to visit her, and she had HBO. And this was back when VCRs weren't really out, and if I remember correctly, Star Wars wasn't even available on VHS till much later. So getting the chance to see Star Wars, they were airing it on HBO early in the morning, like 8 o'clock in the morning, and the night before was like the night before Christmas for me. I do remember seeing Empire Strikes Back, which I saw with my father, and I remember what I remember most about it actually is going to Burger King afterwards because they were giving away uh, Empire Strikes Back glasses, and I got the Luke Skywalker and Yoda and Dagobah glass, and I remember thinking that Darth Vader was lying when he told, spoiler, hopefully I don't have to worry about spoilers 30 years or so later, but thinking that Darth Vader was lying when he told Luke Skywalker that he was his father because I was 7 and Darth Vader was evil. Um, and Return of the Jedi I saw for my 10th birthday, so, I really grew up with it, and it was like the defining movie for me, or trilogy for me. I feel kind of what mostly the biggest influence on, I guess, turning me into the geek I am today. And you talk about what makes it such, you know, there's such a phenomenon that's lasted for almost 40 years now. You know, it's obviously probably, well, it's a little more geared towards kids. I find, it's something that all ages enjoy. Both my parents, when the new movie came out last year, Force Awakens, my mother goes to me, she goes, "Oh, we got to see it together." She goes, "Don't see it without me." I did twice, but I did see it with her. And she's not someone you want to be waiting online for after the movie. She's the one like who's going to spoil something because she's talking about it. Uh, my father today, he texted me. What was it? Happy Star Wars Day. May the Fourth be with you. So I mean, he even enjoys it. My sister likes it. We used to. I remember growing up. Was a little bit older. I really had no social life. She was a little younger than me. We used to watch Star Wars on Friday nights. But then a lot of things, as you said about it, I think a lot of people just consider it sci-fi, and I admit, as a kid growing up, I just thought of it as sci-fi, but it really is a multi-genre movie, and I actually say it's more fantasy than sci-fi. It's just in a sci-fi setting. It's almost a fairy tale. I mean, it's you have the knight and the good wizard, who hired the pirate and his first mate to go on the pirate ship. They go to the evil wizard's castle and save the princess. There are sword fights. But what sets it apart obviously is the sci-fi setting. So of course, it's not your average princess. She's held captive because she's the leader of this rebellion. You know, she won't give up the plans to the Death Star are hidden, even under torture. Once they do rescue her, you know, she takes charge. Shoots them into the garbage uh, disposal, like the trash compactor. Maybe not the best idea, but into the garbage chute, flyboy. That type of stuff. You know, Probably one of the best heroines in movie history. Like I said, they've managed to find a way in a universe where everyone carries a gun that swords are the most powerful weapon, and the sword fights are so much cooler than a gunfight. The you know it's got its magic, but it kind of deals with religion a bit. It deals with good versus evil, uh, faith. You look at Luke Skywalker at the end of A New Hope. Turning off his tracking system and having faith in the Force. The light and dark side. I think the dark side can almost be an analogy for anything bad or dangerous. They talk about going down the path of the dark side and how easily you can be seduced by it and how hard it is to turn away from it. I mean, you could almost use that analogy for someone who gets into drugs. So I think stuff like that. I think the characters I talked about, Princess Leia. Everybody loves Han Solo, the lovable rogue with the heart of gold. You know, Luke Skywalker is who I think as kids we all wanted to be. You want to believe like you have this great power inside you that you never knew about. But well, and as you mentioned, Darth Vader, one of the, if not the greatest villain of all time. You go into Empire Strikes Back, and one of the most ruthless villains in that movie. You know, not just to his enemies, but I mean, just force choking anybody on his staff who makes a mistake. You don't want to be promoted in the Empire. And then at the end of the movie, our hero faces this ruthless villain who killed his father, only to find out that he is his father. I don't know if you've heard there's books out or listened to the audiobooks. They have William Shakespeare's Star Wars, and I think it's like The Empire Striketh Back or something like that. You know, where it's compared to you know the works of Shakespeare with like I said, the father and the versus the son and the brother who has feelings for the sister. Um, I know you mentioned that the Force not being explained, which I think was one of the issues with the prequels. They did explain it a little bit with midichlorians, which we really didn't want that explanation, which is why I'm a little uncomfortable with the possibility of some of these spin-off movies. I mean, I'm really excited for Rogue One, but I don't know if I want a history of Han Solo or Yoda, which I know you gave an argument for, or the movie fights, but I kind of had this image of him after the original trilogy, which was kind of like ruined a little in the prequels for me. So certain things I kind of want left to the imagination. If we're going to do backstories, I'd rather see more minor characters. Boba Fett, a Wedge Antilles, that type of thing, or these side stories like what it looks like Rogue One's going to be. But I think a lot of what has made it endure for so long, and I guess why I love it, people my age, we having grown up with it, I think it came along at the right time also. It just started to be the beginning of this whole, I guess, geek phenomenon. Uh, and it's something that didn't just appeal to the nerds or the geeks. And we had this whole universe to explore. Unlike some of these other universes where it's a certain limited time period, obviously, as we've gone along, they've had things where they went thousands of years back in time. But growing up, I would even say the toys. They were one of the first franchises to really capitalize on toys, which may just seem like a money making thing, and maybe for them it was. But as a kid, it you know expanded the universe in our imaginations as we got to play with all the action figures and had the sets and everything. Uh, you know, and it went away for a while, which I think kind of made it grow even more in our minds. So then when it came back, it was even bigger. We wanted to get our hands on everything we could, whether it was comic books or video games or when the Timothy Zahn books came out. I was like, oh, new Star Wars stuff. I kind of feel it was beginning of the purely blockbuster movie, which has now become an almost weekly thing. But yeah, I almost feel it changed the way movies are done, and obviously the special effects for the time. Uh, seeing a spaceship out there didn't seem weird. So all this stuff, and just this, like I said, just the whole universe to play in. That I think it, it's just held a special place in the heart for those of us who grew up with it. I saw the Force Awakens opening night, but they also did some of these. There was a marathon leading up to it, and you get through the original trilogy, which was okay. You're there with a bunch of obviously diehard Star Wars fans, and then Star Wars: A New Hope comes on, and you get to the end, and here is an almost 40-year-old movie. That's the end of the movie, and the scene Luke Skywalker's flying down the trench of the Death Star. Darth Vader and two TIE fighters are on his tail. And then Han Solo comes along and, shoots the two TIE fighters and knocks Darth Vader spinning off into space, and it's, okay, now let's blow this thing and head home, and he blows it up, and it's an audience full of people. There's some younger than me, but a lot of people even older than me. 40s, 50s, cheering for this movie they've probably seen 100 times. That's 40 years old, and I think it's a feeling it brings that it's if you don't, it's hard to explain to people, I guess, who don't enjoy it or didn't grow up with it. Maybe that I think a few minor flaws. I think the Force Awakens brought back. I always say maybe my favorite scene was the reveal of the Millennium Falcon, which we all knew was going to be in it, but just the way they did it, everyone cheering in the theater, just showing the ship. And I think it's that feeling it brings to people. It's hard to explain, but it makes you feel like a little kid again, while still appealing enough to adults. Um, yeah, I was going to say, the characters before, two of the characters I hear a lot that are people's favorites. Um, when you get outside the main ones are R2D2 and Chewbacca. One of the things they have in common is neither one of them speak English, and you never even see subtitles. But the fact that these characters, just through their roars and their beeps and the reactions to them, you either know what they're saying or you can feel their emotions, whether they're happy or sad or excited through these beeps. Uh, just little stuff like that adds to it, and yeah, it's one of those things that's been a passion of mine for all my life. Maybe it went down a little bit for a while. You kind of, I was admittedly I was excited when the trilogies were out, but after a while, it kind of dwindled down. But with the Force Awakens again, it kind of like stirred it up back up in me. I even have Star Wars license plate on my car at this point. Okay, I've rambled on for way too long, and I know I missed a ton of points I wanted to say, but yeah, obviously a huge Star Wars fan, and thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you. Bye.